technologies, and I have seen that it's so hard to tell good news. Seriously, it's so easy to sell bad news. It's so difficult to get good news into newspapers or into TV or wherever. And I think that is sort of what we have seen over the last couple of years. I had the honor to see many amazing startups, companies that were moving. Really, but because they're doing stuff, they don't have time to hang out in Berlin or in a talk show, because they're really doing the transformation. And I think that was part of the problem, that there's so much lack of knowledge of what's already happening and what we might lose out if all of this stops now. And I always tell people, you were talking about China earlier. When I was, in China with the Chancellor, people asked me about, where are your circularity experts, Ms. Brantner? Yeah, all about circularity. This is the new game for them, because they also know resource efficiency, circularity. Because if we manage to do the circularity on raw materials and all of things, we will be less dependent on them. So they want to have that first. But in Germany, when you talk about Kreislaufwirtschaft, people think about Birkenstock, about muesli, and not about, the next hot shit. And I was trying to think, how can I make that knowledge that they are working on that curve, and that we have been behind the curve on the e-vehicles, we have been behind on the PV and all of this. So how can we not be behind the circularity curve? Because we have the new technologies in Germany. But the public awareness of these technology is like, oh, they're from the 80s, they're like, brown glass recycling. And I'm like, no, this is such a wrong perception. And I think that's where we have not been good enough to communicate that, to say, okay, this is where something new is happening, which will make us more secure, it helps the environment, the climate, and it creates jobs here.
Yes, that's important.
And I think that talking about...
I think this is really important, that you can create jobs, you can create things, you can sell to the world to help the world.
Yeah, and I think that we have probably not been good enough at telling that story or making those pieces available and public. And I think the other one is is it too expensive? And there were quite a number of surveys in the last few days in terms of how the heating prices are going up in Germany, and how people with the heat pump are actually quite well off. And I think that's where the problem is. If you own an apartment or a house, you're definitely better off if you invest in a heat pump. It will be cheaper in the midterm, long term. The property has more value. The question is, what happens if you rent a place? And there we were working on making the rental more attractive also, and getting that benefit that owners have to the renters. And I think that is the parcel that we still have to work on much better. And with the CO2 pricing going up, that's what the current government has put its eggs on. It's all the CO2 price going up. It will be very costly for people renting an apartment if they have a gas heating. And I think that will be interesting to see how they deal with it. And how their reaction will be then, to say, okay, we will just let it be very expensive for people renting. I hope they will not allow us to do, because they are not planning on introducing anything like a Klimageld or any mechanism to give the CO2 pricing, the incentives back to people, nothing. They just increase the price, have no social balancing mechanism. And I'm just afraid that with this government just going on pricing, no social balancing, will make it even harder for anybody fighting for climate protection.
Well, as